Coming up on Tech News today, RIM's running out of options. Google Plus is inviting everyone to everything. The world's ending in 3 different ways, and more.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Friday, June 29th, 2012. Tech News Today is brought to you by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog. For a free trial and 10% off your first purchase on new accounts, go to Squarespace.com and use offer code TNT6. And they now offer free domain registration with annual plan subscriptions. And by Pond5, the world's stock media marketplace. If you're a media maker who needs stock video clips, photos, illustrations, music tracks, or sound effects, check out Pond5 for instant downloads at the best prices anywhere. Check out Pond5 at pond5.com, and for 25% off this month, use code TWiT25. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
I'm Darren Kitchen.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And this is the show we're trying to keep you up to date on the most important stories in technology and put in some context for you. We got Randall Bennett coming up. But before we get to Randall, we're going to talk about the top 10 stories in tech in the News Fuse. Reuters reports that recently Microsoft approached RIM to build a similar partnership as the one Microsoft has with Nokia. That's right, Windows Phone on RIM. The deal would have included Microsoft taking an ownership interest in RIM. RIM didn't like losing its independence, so no deal was struck. After its last earnings report, RIM is now facing pressure to consider all its options.
HP told Bloomberg that it will now be not be offering ARM-based Windows 8 tablets, and it will initially focus on x86-based Windows 8 tablets. HP's motivations are subject to all kinds of rumors, including being miffed about Microsoft's Surface announcement. But HP officially says that the decision was based on, quote, input from consumers.
Adobe says its Flash player isn't certified for use with Android 4.1, otherwise known as Jelly Bean, and warns of unpredictable behavior. Adobe even went as far as to say that it recommends users uninstall Flash player on devices that have been upgraded to 4.1. If your device comes with Android 4.1, like the Nexus 7, it won't support Flash either, officially.
Wonder how Amazon feels about that. Now, good news for Path users who like to exercise. Path announced that Nike Plus Fuel Band users can publish their fitness metrics to Path. You'll see a graph of your progress posted to Path showing how many Nike Fuel points you've earned during the day.
Apple's senior VP of hardware engineering, Bob Mansfield, is retiring. His name might not seem familiar, but if you've ever seen one of those Apple promo videos about design with Johnny Ive, you've seen this guy. Mansfield will be replaced by Dan Riccio, who currently is Apple's VP of iPad hardware engineering. Apple said the transition will take place over several months.
Google rolled out a new feature to its social network called Google Plus Events. One small issue, any event that you're invited to appears on your Google Calendar automatically, even if you hadn't confirmed. Additionally, there are plenty of spam involved in, popular users of Google Plus, like Will Wheaton, who received tons of invites by people who had put him in circles. Google's pushing to fix this right now and apologizes directly to Will Wheaton.
The Wall Street Journal says that Twitter's mobile ad strategy appears to be working. Ads appearing on mobile devices account for the majority of Twitter's ad revenue on most days because people on mobiles are more likely to interact with ads. A representative of P.F. Chang's, a chain restaurant, says the results on its Twitter ad campaign were staggering.
If you build it, they will come. Google Chrome, not Chrome OS. Google Chrome for iOS was the top free app for the iPad and iPhone one day after being released. Even though the app suffers from some shortcomings on Apple's platform, there sure seems to be a lot of demand for a real browser, even in the world of the locked iOS universe.
It'd be nice to just select a different browser. It's like,
yeah, it's nice.
What an idea. Verbs. You know what? Facebook loves them. The company is currently testing a new button that would bear the label Want. A developer from Cutout plus Keep noticed the Want button in Facebook's JavaScript SDK. The button would only work with Open Graph as long as objects were labeled as products. However, the button is not publicly listed, and the company issued a statement saying it does not have anything new to announce.
Want is to like as hate is to what now? GameStop is now taking pre-orders for the Google Nexus 7 and is offering up to 30% trade-in discount if you have other devices, including video game hardware, accessories, or Apple or Android devices. You can pre-order online, or if you want, you can just stroll over to one of their brick-and-mortar stores. GameStop lists the release date of the Nexus 7 as July 31st.
We've got some fun stuff coming up after the news fuse, and now we got Randall Bennett coming up after this, and we're going to dig deeper into some of these stories. But before we do, we'd like to thank Squarespace.com. Now, Squarespace.com, is the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog. I've talked to Tom a bit, and I'm like, you write books, you're doing podcasts, you're doing lots of shows. How do your sites look so good? That's ridiculous. You can't have enough time to code that by yourself. He told me it's Squarespace.com. I'm like, well, do you have to do all the work yourself? He says, no. It's really simple. They have a WYSIWYG editor. You don't need to know CSS, but if you do, you can go in. So many powerful tools at your disposal if you want to change things up. It's really simple. I tried it out, and within a couple of seconds, I made a site. I was just confused. It was so fast. How could it possibly have been built so fast? Squarespace just works that well. And the thing is, it's super reliable. You're not worried about it being taken down or anything like that. Squarespace this month has several great incentives happening during this month, which makes it the best time to sign up for a new account, especially annual plans to get the best deal, free domain plus the lowest price, plus an additional 10% off. Squarespace is now offering free domain registration to all annual plan customers that is completely integrated within the sign-up process, hassle-free setup, and it's about a $15 value for that domain, and you get to keep that. Also, Squarespace recently reduced its prices, now offering plans as low as $8 a month. That's like, what, 2-3 cups of coffee? And Squarespace is still giving 10% off your first purchase on new accounts. For example, that means 10% off your first month on monthly plans or 10% off your first year on annual plans. Just remember, try out squarespace.com and use the offer code TNT6. And we thank Squarespace for their sponsorship of Tech News Today. Randall Bennett, how's it going?
Good. How are you guys doing?
We are doing great. And so what exactly are you up to? What it looks like you're in a TV studio these days?
Yeah, I work for a TV station in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's called KSL. And on the side, I'm developing a bunch of other software as well. So I used to be a podcaster, talent, blah, 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 blah. Now I've turned into a developer. So I'm actually working really hard and not reading the news as much. So,
yeah, and if you check out vidpresso.com, folks. If you haven't seen what Randall does, you'll see it on an upcoming show called Know How with myself and Leo Laporte. It's kind of snazzy. You're going to like it because Randall puts together some cool stuff. I remember seeing that demo a couple of years ago, and now it's what you do. So that's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go. Let's dig deep in some stories. We have some news about RIM, as we said off the top of the show. RIM didn't exactly have the best earnings report yesterday, and so their stocks have closed to a new 9-year low. It's $7.39 for a share of RIM. I think Apple's somewhere around 530 something. So you could see that people are really freaking out, and Reuters had a report today showing off basically what's been going on in RIM's year. Steve Ballmer actually approached RIM this year to put an idea. He's like, hey, look, how about we're BFFs like Nokia? You put on Windows Phone on your devices, and we take an ownership stake. You just forget about your OS, and we'll take care of the rest. Now, considering everything that's happened, BlackBerry 10 is now delayed till Q1 of 2013. Do you think that Windows Phone might have been a better option, Randall?
I honestly do. I mean, when you think about RIM, I heard this story before when it was Nokia, and I heard this story before when it was Motorola. Like each of these companies who were really dominant in the earlier part of last decade, they've really struggled to catch on to the idea that software is the most important part of your device. And as a result, we're seeing, we've seen BlackBerry 10 announced, and RIM has all these high hopes for it, but the underlying problem is that software is not in RIM's DNA. And it's not something that you can really just grow. You can't really become a software company. You have to be a software company from day one so that you know what to value, how to release software effectively, how to have bug-free software. And I just don't think that RIM has the consumer DNA to pull off consumer software. Now, partnering with Microsoft, that's not really working out for Nokia so far. I mean, Nokia hasn't, had this blockbuster hit of any of their Lumia phones. But that being said, it seems like a better option than BlackBerry 10. I mean, I don't know what else you could do. You could give in to Android. They tried that with QNX. They were saying, you can have Android apps running inside of this OS, and that's sort of seemed appealing to them. Why not just go full Android? I mean, they're willing to give it a shot, or Google's willing to bring RIM on as an Android member. I just don't. If I was I can't believe their stock's at $7. It should be at $0.
No, I absolutely agree, and I think that it takes so much into being a developer that can have a platform that's going to be consumer facing. And you're right, there's more to it than just like writing some good code. There's all of those other aspects to it. So a lot of this, though, reminds me of something that happened probably a decade ago with a company that was really good at hardware, and they had some cool, innovative ideas in their OS, but they weren't nearly on, the fast track like Microsoft or, well, Android wasn't existing. But remember Palm? For a while there towards the end, the Palm Trio running the Palm OS, suddenly there's Palm Trio running Windows. And you know what? That thing was fantastic. I mean, Windows Mobile wasn't the best, but it was actually more usable than the Palm OS that they had originally shipping from it. And so they were able to kind of transition somewhat into being, a hardware vendor as well. I mean, ultimately, WebOS and the demise of HP and whatnot, but...
Yeah, but even if you look at that's a really great comparison, because you look at the Palm OS was really lagging, right? Palm OS was just going nowhere. The Windows Mobile Trio 650 or 700, I can't remember which one it was.
700W.
Yeah, 700W. When that came out, it was people who were into Windows Mobile was like really big. It's hard to overstate how big Windows Mobile was at the time, especially for like would-be Engadget readers back in the day. But like that phone was actually really successful on a hardware level. It was the best Trio that had come out ever, and it arguably at the time it was the best smartphone. And using that parallel for RIM, RIM still makes really good feeling devices, right? Blackberries feel good in your hands, and the keyboards are killer. So the fact that like if you paired that with a semi-modern OS, I mean, they still have that problem of like touchscreens are the future, and how do you build a touchscreen phone that still has RIM DNA? And I mean, those are sort of the questions still on people's minds. But I still think it's better than just not trying at all and just failing miserably.
The keyboards. Matthias Duarte of Google, who used to be at Palm, he said publicly that he would love to have RIM build a phone with Android, citing his love of physical keyboards. And he, of course, Duarte was a part of the Palm pre-team. It's a big touchscreen. Not as good a keyboard as a BlackBerry, to be fair.
I would say.
And is this some kind of you think this is a good idea, Darren? Do you think that, okay, BlackBerry, we have a slider, we go with Android, and maybe RIM's got a chance to succeed?
Why not? They should do both. I mean, they should be doing Android and they should be doing Windows Mobile. They should, take both those options. And like the consumers, they like the BlackBerry hardware. There's also software aspects of BlackBerry that as a real core to their business, the BlackBerry Messenger, the iBez, those different like enterprise stuff. There's no reason why that stuff can't be ported over to a different operating system like Android or Windows Mobile. So they should like take those things that they're really good at, hardware and corporate services, and kind of roll those into their own branded flavor of whatever the OS is, whether it's Windows or Android, and just do that really well. I think that the RIM fans would, hop on that.
They really need to pick one or the other, though. I mean, RIM's not exactly a company that can walk and chew gum at the same time. I think if they pick both, they would just fail miserably. Android seems like the natural choice, just from my perspective, because they wouldn't have to work on the core systems, like making sure that the core services are bug-free. And the latest builds of Android are pretty amazing.
They could really kill doing Android if they branded it as the hardened Android. I mean, Android has had kind of like gotten egg on their face quite a few times in the last year or so with security stuff. And if they had like a ROM that was like locked down, it's like, this is the Android that like Congress people can use, then they could make a killing with that.
It'd be the armored Android.
Yeah, I like it.
It's just like an Iron Man kind of thing. And the other thing is RIM apparently kind of missed out. Back in 2010, there's a story running around the Wall Street Journal. It's not running around the Wall Street Journal. It was written in the Wall Street Journal that said that major wireless carriers like AT&T and Verizon actually turned to RIM in 2010 because they were afraid of the amount of power Apple was getting with the iPhone. The thing is, Apple pretty much calls the shots when it comes to how AT&T brands the phone, or doesn't brand the phone for that matter. And so this led to the Storm and the Torch, those two different devices. What do you think of the opportunity that RIM had to basically be the second other phone for AT&T and Verizon? Randall, do you think they could have been the gatekeeper for Apple?
It could have been a contender.
No, I mean, there's no way they could have pulled it off. Honestly, like RIM is this like really they're like Nokia. Like if Verizon and AT&T went to Nokia and was like, hey, do this awesome thing for us, like build this amazing device, they just couldn't pull it off because they don't have the right mindset. I don't think that it's totally an opportunity squandered. You look at Motorola, and Motorola kind of became the de facto hero for Verizon while they didn't have the iPhone. Motorola's not this like amazing hardware company. They're fine at it. They put out like okay devices they're not bad, but they're just not, the iPhone.
Yeah, and like let's not mention the keyboard on like the Droid, say, as compared to the keyboard on even your least expensive RIM BlackBerry Curve.
Yeah, but there's not a company that could really compete with Apple in this like vertically integrated approach with software being killer, the hardware being killer, thinking new ideas in the OS side. I mean, there wasn't really a company that could do that. And so, AT&T and Verizon are drawing at straws. Like, for RIM, you have a shot. Like, you have a huge enterprise customer base, but really, like, RIM just isn't the right company to nail that vertical strategy, which even points to more to this news that they turned down Microsoft as kind of like, what are you thinking, And
one of the big things about RIM that I'm noticing is that they don't have the same sense of urgency that Palm did. When Palm was squandering, like kind of just floundering around, and people were like, what's going on with you guys? Are you going to come back? A lot of people had a soft spot for the company when the pre showed up. It was a sense of, oh, they're really trying right now.
Shot.
They're scheduling.
Everyone, that CES, like every tech journalist was like, dude, Palm, you have a shot here. Like, we believe in you. WebOS seems really interesting. The thing that WebOS and Palm really screwed up was the hardware was really cheap. And as a result, like, the OS didn't run as well as it could. The hardware felt like the keyboard. I had a Palm pre, and it like the keyboard is just super weak sauce. RIM, they could have done that. They could have been Palm. They could, had that like initial wave of excitement, but the problem still is like that software piece. Palm at its core has a strong software developer base. Like BOS, people merged into Palm. Like, there's at least like some culture of software there. Whereas, you look at RIM's history before the BlackBerry things, they had those little like PDA, the first PDA that was like a flat card. And I mean, they had all these other sort of like random products, and they were always hardware based. And it's just, like, it's unfortunate that Waterloo, where RIM's from, couldn't kind of like get this together. But at this point, just like sell. I mean, they're done.
Well, they're Canadians. They're really, really nice, is what they suffer from, I think.
That must be it. They are suffering right now. And all kidding aside, I mean, competition is good. We like having as many hardware manufacturers out there as there can be, because we want to have choice at the end of the day. We don't necessarily want to be like, oh, great, there's two platforms, and they're getting more and more locked down. You want to have choice. And RIM, if you can get your act together, I think we'd all appreciate it.
Yeah, give us an open RIM hardware and couple it with WebOS. Oh!
Even then, I mean, open hardware, I don't think is going to save RIM.
I'm not being serious.
The only thing that can save RIM is like just pixie dust or something, or unicorns.
Pixie did not save Palm. Let's move on to Google. Google Plus events rolled out this week at Google I/O, and the thing is, it had this killer feature, right? So if you invited somebody to an event, it's something that Facebook didn't have. It would show up in your calendar. But the thing is, it didn't ask you to confirm whether you were going to go to the event, and your calendar was populated with all kinds of events. On top of that, when you were invited, you received lots and lots of emails. Now, there were some quotes from Will Wheaton, who received thousands and thousands of emails. Quote, talking about Google Plus events, "It's too bad that I'll never use it and will kill it with fire, because Google has yet again made a product that may be useful and cool, but forced it upon users without giving users any control over how invasive it is," end quote. And then Vic Gondotra wrote a response apologizing, and they're pushing out fixes for it. Is this a massive misstep, or is this something that's only affecting a really super popular people that maybe normal people wouldn't notice, Darren?
I think it's exactly what you say. Like, normal people wouldn't notice this, and of course, there's going to be these little missteps here. When like Facebook didn't get it right, like first time out of the gate. In fact, they still haven't, in my opinion. And this was, I think that events was really like the only thing that they didn't have to be, a toe-to-toe competitor with Facebook. And so now they have it all, and there's like no excuse to be on the other platform.
And Randall, does Google understand social at all? It seems like when they tried that first thing with Buzz, that was like a mistake. And so it seems like they figured out, okay, with Plus, we're not going to have an API that you can write to. You're not going to see Twitter 5 minutes later on Plus. But this kind of mistake seems like it's more egg on their face.
I mean, the problem is that like they're getting it. I feel like they're making some progress, but there's nothing actually that innovative about Google Plus other than Google Hangouts. And Google Hangouts as a product is like not compelling enough for me to show up. Events, legitimately, they were trying some more interesting things. I mean, making the idea that taking photos and allowing anyone to post to events. I think on Facebook, chat room, you can actually me if you want. But I think on Facebook, you can only add photos if you're the organizer, and you can tag people in them. And it's difficult to kind of collect them all together. So Google Plus's emphasis on anyone who attends the event can take a picture. That's interesting. Showing up in your Google Calendar. I mean, I have iOS 6 right here, and this is my Facebook calendar that's showing up there because I've linked it with Facebook. So I think that kind of advantage is a little bit gone. But really, Google Plus's core issue is still that it's not interesting enough. There's no reason for me to go to Google Plus when I have Facebook or Twitter yet. And Hangouts is a great first step, but they just need to figure out something that they can do that no one else can do, other than be huge and log in with your Google account. So,
really, I think that the Google Plus party mode for the events is actually quite innovative, and it lowers the barrier to entry. And suddenly, when it's something that's easy to do and it just pops up on your phone, then more people are going to use it, and it's just going to be intuitive. And I find the Facebook side kludgy, but this isn't a Facebook versus Google Plus debate.
That's the first thing that I think that they've done on Google Plus in a while, since Hangouts anyway. That's interesting, right? The collection of photos. That's more interesting, but it's still my birthday is next week. Hey, give me a birthday present. No, I'm just kidding. But I can, I'm inviting people to my birthday party. I'm not inviting anyone on Google Plus because everyone's on Facebook. There's no reason for me to people can take pictures and post them on my Facebook wall if they wanted. I mean, there's just not enough issues to switch unless you're already a Google Plus user and you have a huge collection of people. It just makes Google Plus a little bit better.
Well, I think you just mentioned the biggest difference, and that is, with Google Plus, there's not I'm going to post it on your wall. I can't come by and graffiti your house in the Google Plus universe, whereas somebody who you're friends with can in the Facebook world. And I think that's why, that's the biggest reason for me to make a choice between the two networks.
I think theoretically Google had something good here. They have all these different properties that people are used to, like Google Calendar. That's basically how I get anything done. I use a calendar system because otherwise it just doesn't happen. But to have these other events showing up and things, I mean, it's probably something they didn't foresee, because they probably thinking, yeah, people put the social events in there, but I put a lot of my work in there as well. So the fact is, I'm not using either one of these. Google Plus and Facebook, I'm not bothering with.
No way, dude. Google Plus all the way. Events, I'm not missing the next cabaret. That's all I'm saying.
I'm just going to stick to Twitter because it's faster to read. Darren, the world is ending, apparently.
The world is ending. In fact, the latest data security researchers in a paper that's going to be presented at an upcoming crypto conference claims to have cracked 8 different types of cryptographic tokens. So this is an attack that exploits vulnerabilities that are found in tokens from vendors like RSA, Aladdin, Siemens, and 5 others. And the problem lies in this really complex, awesome system called PKCS #1 version 1.5. It's a public key crypto standard. So public key cryptography, public key, private key. If you're familiar with PGP, any of that stuff, it's really cool technology that all of these use. And RSA labs, they actually define a lot of different standards, and one of them, is this PKCS, this standard for exchanging cryptographic keys and whatnot. And it is susceptible to a couple of different attacks. This version 1.5, it's an early version. It dates back to 1993. It was later replaced in 1998 with version 2.0, and the latest is from 2002. But these researchers were able to use this technique to attack that portion of these security tokens that allow them to do this thing called, the attack, it's pretty cool. It's called a padding Oracle attack. It's not to be confused with Oracle, the computer company, but this attack, it basically goes after this certain portion of this PKCS called the cipher block chaining mechanism, and it basically allows them to decipher the ciphertext into plain text. They're able to unencrypt messages without having to know the key. It actually doesn't reveal the key. Now, the thing is, while it's really cool that this attack, on average, can compromise an RSA Secure ID 800 authenticator in 13 minutes, it's not super practical. RSA responded with a blog post titled, "Don't believe everything you read. Your Secure ID RSA tokens are not cracked." And RSA's CTO, Sam Curry, stated that the vulnerability makes it possible for the attacker to gain access to the symmetric key and the encrypted data sent over the smart card. However, it requires the attacker to have both the smart card device and the PIN number. So the attacker, in fact, the attack doesn't even impact the one-time password functionality of it. But basically, the situation comes down to this. In this case, RSA is using antiquated crypto standards. And it's kind of funny because RSA is actually the one publishing those standards.
Now,
sorry.
You can go ahead, Randall.
Are these keys? These are like the little tokens that you get that your company gives you, and but these are more specific than just like the regular ones that have the number on them, right? Like these are the ones that connect via smart card or USB or something.
Yeah, smart card or USB, and a lot of the practical parts of the attack are like if you could compromise like the host that they plug the system into, then you could hack the smart card or the USB dongle. At which point it's not that necessary because you've already compromised the machine.
So this would prevent like a really secure exchange of information. Like I'm using this key's ID to send something to someone else, and for some reason this key is like able to encrypt it better or something. So it's kind of like a really narrow attack like window.
Right. A lot of people use these authenticator devices to get people, people that are working remotely to connect back to their virtual private networks and their big corporations. Sure. This is used by like big government and aerospace and huge corporations and whatnot. And this standard, PKCS, has been in use since the early 90s. And
so that should mean that there's no way that RSA is selling anything with something like that since 93. They've upgraded, right? So this shouldn't be an issue, right?
RSA is the vendor that sells the secure ID tokens.
Right.
They're also the vendor that creates the cryptographic standards. And they're using their own old standards, their old deprecated, antiquated standards. They're using the old 1.5 stuff, even though they have the new 2.1 stuff.
So by being lazy,
yes,
this is possible. You can actually go ahead and hack this. But the thing is, practically speaking, though, if you have access physically to these two things,
yes,
do you bother with this?
I have your token and your PIN.
Yeah,
and now I can decipher a message with it, but not the actual encryption key. It's
and
really
only for like a couple minutes.
It's really interesting math. And I'm fascinated by this, and they're able to do it like with our RSA's implementation, 13 minutes. With some of the other implementations of the other vendors, up to a little over an hour. But I still think it's fascinating. All of the research is going to be presented at Crypto 2012 at the conference in August over in Santa Barbara, California.
I think the bigger thing is like this is kind of a longer. This is kind of a really obscure little hack, right? Like it's not a huge deal, but the fact that they were able to do anything with RSA is kind of different. I mean, I think RSA has long been seen as this, like amazing company who has cryptography nailed, and every corporation trusts them because of these little like changing LCD screens. So I mean, I guess it's not really, you shouldn't be worried, but it's a little bit of a sea change in how people probably view RSA, at least how I view them, as sort of like invulnerable. And now they're okay. I mean, you have a little tiny issue. Maybe I'll be
a little tiny issue, like they got hacked and their source code stolen last year. Yeah, that was fun.
That's a slight problem. And then actually, at this coming up, we're going to be talking a bit about the Nexus 7. We actually have one. Jason had it from the Google I/O Developers Conference. But we'd like to thank one of our sponsors, Pond5. Now, a lot of you guys in the audience, you guys are media makers, right? You like making content. You like watching podcasts. You like making podcasts. But one of the ways you can bring your production way up is by having some really high-quality video, audio, stock kind of stuff like that. Now, it's really expensive to have all the camera equipment. Now imagine I wanted to, I don't know, maybe show an aerial shot of my old hometown, New York City. I can't rent a helicopter and get a camera and go way out there and shoot that. That's going to cost a fortune. But if you went to Pond5, right, you can do a search for maybe an aerial shot of New York City. Oh, look, there's one right there. I could use that. I can get access to those files legally. I can put them in my movie or my podcast or anything that I'm doing because Pond5 can give you this content legally. It's absolutely legal. That's one of the best things here. You're not worried about ripping stuff off of YouTube and it might not be legal. You got some really high quality video, audio clips, anything, stock photos, vector illustrations, sound effects. What if I wanted sound effects of traffic, Jason? If I wanted to have that sound in New York that I grew up with, maybe some car horns and buses, some kind of city traffic. Can we hear that?
Pond5.com.
Now, if you buy the
even
content,
the Pond5.com girl who hung out outside your apartment.
Very true, but the thing is, if you buy the content, it will not be watermarked with the Pond5 lady there speaking. Also, by the way, if you create content like this, you can sell it to Pond5, and they offer some of the greatest rates. If you'd like try out Pond 5 for 25% off. Use the offer code TWiT25. That's Pond 5 at pond5.com. And we thank them for their sponsorship of Tech News Today. Now it's time for some
the weather.
For the weather.
Oh.
No, wait, no.
Back to Steve.
I don't know. There might be a weather app on this. Now, we're actually going to do something a little different because I'm sitting here and there's no Tom. So we're going to do some hands-on time with some Google goodies because Jason got the developer's kit. And so we have the Nexus 7. And a lot of the reviews these, like today, all over the blogs today, the Nexus 7 review, because people have had it for enough of a time. They're playing with the devices. They're finding out. And generally, people are saying, this is the best $200 tablet available today. That pretty much puts it up against the Kindle, maybe an old playbook. Jason, you've been playing around with
and
this.
a lot of like really low cost, import tablets as well, which everybody just kind of knows automatically they're probably not up to snuff as far as those are concerned. But yeah, I totally agree. I've spent about a day and a half with it, and I've used it actually a lot. What's interesting, most interesting to me is that I have the Galaxy Tab 10.1, and I am inspired to use this pretty regularly. Like I want to buy one for myself. I'm sure this one, because I broke my wife's Kindle Fire, I'm probably going to end up giving her this one in particular, but I kind of don't want to give it up. I want to get one for myself just because the form factor, the size, and just the performance of it is so impressive, especially for the price point. I just don't think you can do much better for $200 to $250 right now.
Now, design-wise, it's super thin. It's got this leather back or like rubber back. It feels like a leather glove, actually.
Yeah.
It's got this, you can't really see it because it's all blown out, but it's like it's got these little pits and it says Nexus on it. It's, it's quite snazzy and it's really responsive and it feels like a high-quality product.
That's what I was really afraid of when I saw that it was Asus that was making it. And no offense, Asus, but I've had a couple of experiences, some great ones, but others really pathetic. And so I was like terrified until I came into studio and held it with my own hands. And you know what? It didn't bite me. It didn't immediately break. It was pretty good.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, continually my only complaint has been that it's maybe a little dim display brightness-wise, but that's such a minor complaint. Everything else on this thing, particularly performance, with the Tegra 3 quad-core processor inside, I mean, things just kind of fly on this device. And, for a $200 tablet, you don't really expect high performance, but you get it out of this tablet, and that's really important.
Yeah, like with the specs and the price and everything, how is any other tablet going to compete at this point? Who's going to buy a Kindle Fire unless you really just love Amazon that much?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of it right there, is that if you are so invested in the Amazon ecosystem, then the Kindle Fire is going to possibly seem more appealing to you. But I mean, there's something from my perspective to be said for the fact that you're getting a Nexus device for $200, and a lot of people that probably doesn't mean a whole lot, but it should, because that means you're getting your updates straight from Google. You're getting the true Android experience, not a forked version that's going to take a long time to update on the back end and everything. Not to mention they've really done a good job at targeting this tablet for directing people to the Play Store. I mean, the moment you open this, it's covered with a lot of widgets that don't necessarily annoy me. They actually made me want to buy things because they look so appealing.
And doesn't it also come with a credit to the Play Store so you can start buying stuff?
Yeah, a $25 credit to the store. It also comes, with like Transformers. One of the Transformers movies.
It was beautifully encoded, that Transformers, so everybody should go check it out.
I'm actually playing some music on the Nexus Q, which is in front of me right now, and obviously you can't hear any audio. I don't know. I'm going to pick it up. Now it's glowing. You can bring this glowing ball.
I thought that was a figurine from the from that Douglas Adams adaptation film.
You can see it better.
Yeah, there we go.
With this white behind it.
Dude,
this is
huge.
Actually, it's not so large, but the thing is, we're at TWiT, and we don't have anything to connect this to because on the back we have ports for banana clips. There's a micro or mini HDMI port. There's optical audio out, and let's see what other non-standard thing. Then we have a USB port, which is meant for hacking. It's actually quite hefty, and this piece here turns. This is your volume control. You can see it glows colors when you're playing music. Like Darren, what did you think the thing cost?
I thought it looked like the little robot dude from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That's what it looked like to me. But from the back end, with the cables coming out of it, especially when you have like all the cables going on, kind of looks like one of those squid guys from the Matrix.
Yeah, it totally does.
And this is reporting that you can only get on TNT.
or Reddit.
I don't know. So I'm curious to know, though, Randall, have you been following this Nexus stuff, and what do you think about the Q in particular? Because that's kind of the thing that threw everybody for a little bit of a curve.
I just feel like it's such a miss. I mean, like it reminds me of Sonos, right? Like higher end.
Right.
I mean, it seems like really nice hardware, but it doesn't have. I mean, I got an Apple TV for Father's Day because it was $99, and like we've been using, we use MLB.TV on it mostly, so we don't use it tethered to our devices. But it's way nice that I can throw my iPhone, throw a video up for my son or whatever. I just don't feel like when you look at it has a high-end appeal, and maybe if you have a Nexus 7 and like if I had my choice between the Nexus 7 and the Q, it's like, why would I even contemplate buying that?
Right.
For $200, like it just doesn't seem like you're getting a whole lot unless you have an amazing Android phone that can stream amazingly.
Sure.
And
it's not
I hate to break that, but it's actually $100 more than that.
It's $299.
So,
Yeah, and I thought it was $100.
So it's even more than that.
Yeah, I was reading headlines about the $100 Google device, and we're like, oh, that must be the Q. And came in today, and I was so excited about the hackability. I'm like, wow, Raspberry Pi, why? For like $100, you could get, no, it's $300.
Yeah,
Not
no,
happening.
It's 3 times more than a lot of the other devices that you think are on the same table as the Q. But that's the weird thing, right? Is that everybody's really trying to figure out exactly what it is and why this versus something else that's maybe $100.
Here's
that
why it's going to
do more.
Here's why it's going to be hugely successful. I mean, we remember the Boxy Box. Awesome, formidable hardware. We all love it. However, it's got like slanted corners and doesn't sit right. This is round, so it'll obviously do fantastic.
It's great when you can place your non-standard components next to each other. Like here's my Boxy Box.
Here's my
and
Boxy Box. You can
Q.
stack them. You could put
That'll
this
be
on top of a
your
Boxy Box.
non-standard
And
corner.
it would slide
Yeah.
off. It'd be like slalom.
Now, it does have a 25-watt amplifier in it. That's one of the reasons it's so hefty. It's supposed to be a higher-end audio product as well. Although currently it's pulling music from Google Music, and currently that's only coded at 320 kilobits per second. So maybe if that changes, it's a high-end audio
If you're a
product.
true audiophile, that won't
but
be
it-
enough for you, but
It glows.
it's good enough.
It is kind of interesting that it's got the amplifier, the banana clips, and all of that, and yet it's Google Music with the 320. So it's like,
But
what
you
does
can
that
still
mean?
do, like you could do MOG or whatever. MOG has some ridiculously high bit rate. I mean, you could do some other music streaming. What codec is it using coming out? Do we know? Is it like just like regular HTTP, or is it some other like googly thing?
I have no idea if it's WebM or AAC or MP3, but
I would guess it's probably just. I mean, you can only connect Android devices, right?
That's correct.
Yep, that's another kind of
And
thing.
the Q then pulls it from the cloud. It does not stream from your device.
Oh,
You're controlling it with your device. It's pulling from the cloud, so it has its own wireless or Ethernet connection to actually
it's totally
stream.
going after Sonos. Like that's Sonos. Like I spend lots of money because I'm a rapper. Like market, and I don't think anyone else really would want this at all.
It's too confusing to explain to the general consumer exactly why they need this. I do think that it was interesting that they pointed out during the keynote that the USB port is there, quote, for general hackability. I think that probably implies that obviously hackers are gonna have fun with it, and they already have started to do that. But I think it also probably implies that Google has more plans for this thing. Like it has to grow. The capability of this device has to grow to justify $300.
So I know who the target market is. It's Facebook IPO millionaires.
It's for everybody who
collectors.
Instagram. It's like, I have so much money. I don't know what to do. I'm gonna buy an extra.
Employees of Instagram and Facebook millionaires.
we could play really expensive bocce ball with this.
I think we have a future for the extra pieces there.
Yeah, but don't play bocce ball with that because that's mine.
Oh, okay.
Okay, not that one.
get
In
my
the
own.
future, we'll do that, or we'll have a shot put contest. Let's talk a bit about HP. Now, HP is going to introduce x86-based Windows 8 tablets, and this story has been blown out of proportion by lots of different sites. And the claim is that HP is actually really angry at Microsoft for introducing the Surface tablet. Now, what happened was, apparently, this is how the story goes. Microsoft saw all of their partners' devices, and they go, that's really nice. We're going to go make our own. They didn't tell their partners this, and then when the partners found out was when Microsoft decided to show it to the public, or the Friday before that. Now, the rumors are placing the blame on the introduction of the Surface. Do you think that HP was miffed, and that's why they're not doing the RT-based tablets, or do you think it's because, well, x86 and enterprise is really where HP wants to be.
They're not doing it because I don't think they've ever built an ARM device. And like that, the website that's kind of the source of all this is called semiaccurate.com. Like just saying, semi-accurate. I mean, granted, they probably actually did, meet with them and say, do you want to do ARM tablets? Do you have, desires to do more battery-friendly tablets? I just don't think that HP cares. They don't even know who they are right now. So the fact that they're not doing an ARM tablet is not surprising. I think the touchpad would be kind of the closest cousin to an ARM tablet. I don't even know what processor the touchpad runs, so someone could probably correct me on that. But regardless, they're barely a computer company, right? They were going to close down their computer division. I just don't think that they even know anything about the consumer services division of HP at all. No one's figured out what they're doing, and the fact that they're not making an ARM tablet has more to do with it. HP doesn't know what they're doing. Rather than some sort of beef with Microsoft.
Well, let's absolutely kill the story dead, because I asked Paul Thurrott directly. I'm like, hey, do you have any inside information about this? He directed me to the original story, and he says the detail is that this has nothing to do with Surface. HP had made this decision previously. Also, this is at launch. HP will almost certainly be making RT-based devices at a later date. So, for everybody who was quoting semi-accurate as accurate, probably not. Onto the world of GPSs. Again, the world is ending, Darren.
Yeah, it's again a fun, beautiful story about encryption and hackers taking over airplanes and things crashing into each other, and it's good stuff.
Hackers are taking over airplanes?
Well, hackers on a plane, right? So it's almost as bad as snakes.
I want these mother...
So a University of Texas at Austin team of researchers have used a spoofing technique whereby a drone mistakenly thinks that a signal is coming from the GPS, but it's actually coming from these hackers, and it goes off course because it doesn't know where it is. It's pretty cool. They showed it to Fox News, and there was a whole bunch of hoopla about it, and I did a bunch of further research, and it's actually quite interesting because this all comes down to this whole idea comes down to the fact that by September 30th of 2015, drones will have access to U.S. airspace that was currently reserved just for pilots. So, good on you, Congress, for giving the FAA the go-ahead for...
That means we're going to have unencrypted GPS people. No people in these planes. This is a drone-based thing. Civilians are running this, though. Right.
So the way that the University of Texas team did it was, the University of Texas at Austin team did it was that they showed a helicopter that they had that was using the GPS system, and they were able to beam to it spoofed GPS signals, and so the helicopter thought it was off course and then made corrections, and so somebody that's really nefarious could use that to their advantage based on giving it various incorrect data and kind of steering it where they want it, potentially into a blazing fire on the ground over a target or something.
Or into me, so I can look at the technology behind the drone.
Yeah, and so people got all people are freaking out about this a little bit because it's oh no, if the FAA allows drones over U.S. airspace and it's that easy to spoof. Well, that's why the Department of Homeland Security came out and they're like, hey, give us a demo of this. Now, turns out there's several aspects to the GPS. And we know GPS as consumers as that, unencrypted, anybody can go and buy a receiver and start getting positioning data. But that's only one aspect of it. There's the military side of the GPS system, which is totally encrypted, and it relies on an anti-spoofing mechanism. It's a thing called the Selective Availability Anti-Spoofing Module, and it went into place back in 02, 03. It's mandated for any equipment since 06. It replaces an older technology called PPS TAC-SM, which was a really interesting crypto system in which the satellites beam down the positioning data, and all of the drones and missiles and other crazy stuff that uses this encrypted military system has to have this key, the red key, and this red key has to be periodically updated. And this key can't be transmitted in unencrypted form. It has to stay classified the whole way. And so that was replaced with this new system where they can actually do out-of-band updates using a black key, meaning they can actually transmit it unclassified. So I'm feeling pretty good about the robustness of the military satellite GPS network for their means. But when it becomes commercialized and other companies like, for example, FedEx has expressed interest in having like cargo planes that are, unmanned or flied by drones, right? It kind of makes me a little reserved about the whole idea because it's like, well, it's not like the military is going to give, FedEx the keys, right?
Yeah.
And the unencrypted civilian stuff can easily be spoofed. Now, the FAA has been working on this system called NextGen, or the Automatic Dependent Surveillance Broadcast, or ADSB. It uses GPS to determine aircraft's location. It updates a lot faster, like 1 per second instead of every 12 seconds. And it's pretty cool. It uses radar and a bunch of other cool stuff, but it's just like, I don't know, it has me like wondering, how are all of those things going to be ironed out? And if people really think about like, what is the inherent trust in something if you're inherently trusting the accuracy of your GPS signal?
Yeah.
So if you have this, so we have the military class and we have the unencrypted class. If we had these civilian drones, we would need some kind of third class because right now GPS does not go back and forth. It's not like the signal is going back and forth. So how would this have to work? I mean, the military has lots of different keys, right? They can just say, yeah, use some of our other keys, right? Or what could happen?
I guess. I mean, they could potentially give them access to that kind of stuff, but I don't know what that means for if that were to like leak out and whatnot. And it sounds like their old system, which relied on this red key system, was kind of one of those like, oh, don't let the keys fall into the wrong hands. Perhaps this newer selective availability anti-spoofing module could be given to commercial pilots, but only time will tell.
I've been yammering for a bit. I guess we got to see what's going on in the randomizer.
Randomizer.
So, apparently, if you don't secure your Wi-Fi, there can be a SWAT team at your door. This is like the doom and gloom episode of TNT.
So we've talked about encryption in two different aspects now. RSA getting their encryption broken.
We have that problem.
The GPS system
we got
having
planes falling out
awesome
of the sky.
encryption, right?
We have SWAT teams.
Here's what's happened when you don't use encryption. As a person living in a home in Evansville, Indiana, found out when it was raided by a SWAT team in response to postings on Topics.com message board, which threatened police and their family. The home was invaded by at least 8 SWAT team members using 2 flash grenades, and they found it to harbor an open wireless network. Yeah, not the suspected poster. Wah, wah. Well, the homeowner isn't pleased, obviously, and the city's going to pay for the damages. The police are justifying the raid. They're like, it's totally cool. We can raid people if we want. And after further investigation, though, and a little bit of surveillance, the police realized, unencrypted Wi-Fi, maybe it's one of the neighbors. Did a little investigation, knocked on a door this time instead of like bashing in windows and throwing in flash grenades, and talked to a teenager who reported to the press as being, quote, a smart mouth who dislikes the cops. However, he's denied that he made the threat. So I'm just like wondering, like, dude, is this like waste of tax dollars? Is this just another a case of like IP address is not the person you think it is? Or is it just juvenile trolling?
What do you think, Randall? Do you think that with the SWAT team, well, at least in my opinion right away, I think the SWAT team should have just gone after the whole block. If it's open, it's got to be somebody within a certain radius,
no,
right?
Dude, parabolic antenna, get it from a mile away.
Oh, okay, so that's the other issue. So we're going to have to check for antennas.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the real thing that I like what you said, Darren, that another case of an IP address not equaling a person. I think eventually people will realize that, these source IPs are, they're networks. They're not actually people usually. We all are using some form of NAT nowadays. So typically, whether it's an open Wi-Fi or even a closed Wi-Fi, like that could be hacked as well. An IP address is not sufficient evidence to go after someone. ISPs who are giving this data to the police, like without notifying these people, I wish they could inform the police a little bit better and say like it might be this person, but it's not. But I think as the more incidents like this happen, especially if this incident were to cause like significant injury or like a more serious consequence, I think that would get sent around on the police message boards like, hey, turns out that IP addresses aren't people.
Yeah, well, part of me thinks that this may have a little bit to do with the actual nature of the threat. In this case, it was, the poster was, basically threatening the police officer bodily harm, their spouses, their whole family and whatnot. And so I can only imagine what the discussion must have been over at HQ that kind of led to them deciding, hey, it'd be a great idea to get a SWAT team. And then on top of that, they were like, well, as long as we're going to do that and show them who's boss, let's get the reporters to come in and film the whole thing. So you can go and check out the video, and they're like, they like knock twice, and then they bust in the window and throw 2 flash grenades.
It's just insane. Like it's a internet poster making a dumb comment. Like, how many times have people said stupid things about us? Yeah. I mean, it's not a big deal. Like, get a thicker skin.
I don't know what internet you guys go on. The internet's nothing but flowers and puppies and sunshine.
Oh no, you haven't seen Anonymous Coward. Obviously.
I must be. I'm so off.
You're right. What if the police started going to every door where Anonymous Coward is posting?
Yeah, seriously. Or like YouTube commenters, like just I'm sure that this video is posted on YouTube. Are they going to go on all the people making threats in the YouTube comments and try to get them? Like,
let's check what's going on the calendar. Sarah, are you here? Somewhere like
I'm here.
Somewhere in Europe, Sarah's doing the calendar right now. But I guess I'll do it right now.
It was 5 years ago today that Apple released its first iPhone.
Very good impression. Sounds just like her. Minitel to shut down tomorrow, June 30th. France is saying goodbye to the internet's precursor. Also tomorrow, by the way, Mobile Me is getting the boot. It's over for Mobile Me. And by the way, I want you to enjoy your long weekend, everybody, because tomorrow we get a whole second added, the leap second. It's needed because the Earth is slowing down a bit from the tidal pull of the moon. So
we should correct this with magnets.
Or we could just add a second. One or the other. I like getting the long weekend. You want to pull up magnets to knock yourself out. On Sunday, July 1st, Rod Beckstrom's term as president of ICANN ends. On July 2nd, on Monday, is the EU deadline for Google to address anti-competitive search practices. And also on Monday, Kodak Gallery, for those of you who are still using that, is set to go offline. After that, your photos are going to be copied over to Shutterfly, which bought Kodak Gallery.
July 7th, Randall's birthday.
Randall's birthday is July 7th. Let's check.
Do you think Rob Beckin's platform was Yes We Can?
No.
Yes, I can? Okay.
No, I don't.
All right. I see.
I'd like to see what's incoming, though.
Incoming message.
This message comes from Rico, who says, "Hi, Twits. I've been playing around with the Apple Podcast app and found a reason to ditch my much-beloved Stitcher. Easy video editing, easy video audio switching. It works like this. You subscribe to the TNT video feed, start watching it while eating a Belgian waffle for breakfast, and then time to dash out for work. Nope, simply lock the screen and the audio continues playing."
And Randall, have you tried out the new podcast app?
Briefly, for a couple seconds, and I love it. I mean, I think podcasting has sort of been, like Apple at least, seems like they didn't even care about podcasting for a long time. So it's about time,
Well, it's a nice little feature where you have the video, because if you're playing it in other apps, it'll just stop the video playback. You don't have the audio, and you're like, oh, that's not very good. I wanted to still hear it.
Yeah.
It's a nice little feature, although I still think it's a little overly cutesy with, hey, look, we really liked bronze design on a tape player. Let's copy it entirely. That's pretty silly. Before we thank everybody for being here, remember, if you're watching live.
Yeah, especially in Greenland.
In Greenland? What's on Greenland?
Well, the time is changing. It's now going to be at 3 o'clock in Greenland.
That's right. So we're going to be 3 o'clock still, but just in Greenland.
Only in Greenland.
Starting on Monday, if you're watching live, we start Tech News Today at 10 o'clock Pacific. So 10 o'clock in the morning. That's right. That's going to be a big change. It's going to be fun. It's going to start Monday. Randall Bennett, thanks for being here. Where can people find you on the internet or on television or off of television, or just, I guess, where's your house?
Yeah, so right now, at Randall B on Twitter is the best way to follow me. But vidpresso.com is my new startup that we launched about a month ago. And I work at KSL TV in Salt Lake City, so you should watch if you're in Salt Lake City. Just saying.
All right, well, here's to the last happy hour TNT Liquid Friday.
There we go. Also, this is our last SD version as well, Jason?
Yes, apparently TNT is one of the new shows switching or adding an HD feed sometime next week. So don't be alarmed, but there will be a change happening.
Okay, so
I'll announce more on next week's episode, and if you don't get it, you'll know it's probably because
we
the HD
moved to a
switch
bright and earlier time, and we moved to HD, so we gotta get some real sleep.
Yeah,
it's gonna be trouble.
So many changes all at once.
Darren, what's going on at Hack 5?
Oh, at Hack 5, we're hacking all the things, drinking all the booze, killing all the humans. Actually, that's the name of an awesome project that we developed to do second factor authentication for Linux. But no, the latest stuff that we've been talking about includes bouncing traffic off of multiple servers using proxy chains. So encrypt your stuff to China so that you can encrypt your stuff to South Africa so you can encrypt your stuff back to Greenland.
Well, that sounds exciting stuff.
That's how you post on a message board.
And by the way, if you wanted to know about how the whole RSA keys and everything works, there's a whole series on Hack 5 about that.
Oh yeah,
I have to watch it over the weekend. I'm going to make sure my brain doesn't melt, but it's very
We
very
do
helpful.
it with the whiteboard. It's fun. We
That's
speak
fantastic.
human speak on it. Yeah, season 11's been great that way. Check it out, hak5.org.
If you guys want to submit or vote on story coverage on Tech News Today, check out our Reddit at technewstoday.reddit.com. There's lots of stories. You guys threw a lot of stories at us. The top pick was Google Chrome, already #1 amongst free iOS apps, and we covered that. It did really well. Very surprising. Spray-on battery makes power paintable. I got to check that out. I like to spray some batteries. So we'd like to thank our moderators for taking care of that. If you don't want to submit a story, go ahead and vote stories up or down. That really helps. You can also send us best of submissions. At the end of the year, Jason Howell is tasked with putting together the best of Tech News Today, a special, and this is news to him too, he does not want to go through every single episode because we do the show daily. You could let us know which are the best moments of Tech News Today. You can send us an email with the subject line best of at tnt@twit.tv. So send an email to tnt@twit.tv with the subject line best of. If you have a time code of the episode, we love that. It's very helpful. It makes Jason happy. And not a lot of things make Jason happy. So that's important. If you want to send us an email or send us a voicemail, you can do that. We have you covered. TNT@twit.tv. Voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW. I think that's a local call somewhere in the middle of the country. I always forget that. Monday, 10 o'clock Pacific, live. We're going to have Callie Lewis. I think that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it. 10 a.m. Pacific.
10 a.m.
Meet us there then, and we'll see you bright and early in the morning.
We'll have a Tom Merritt, myself, Callie Lewis. Peace.